Reaching Master Rank 1 in Master Duel is an accomplishment many players seek whenever they participate in ranked matches. For the most part, achieving this goal isn't too difficult, given that you have the time, patience, and most importantly of all, a good deck. A majority of Master Duel players usually achieve this by buying gems to buy specific packs, by using crafting points to generate important staples, or a combination of the two. But what if that wasn't an option? Can someone still achieve the highest rank in Master Duel via the luck of the pull? Is it possible to achieve Master Rank 1 without ever crafting a single card or buying a single gem? Well, in this series I intend to find the answer to this very question. Let's lay down the ground rules for this challenge. I'll begin the series by choosing one structure deck and buying 3 copies of it. However, there is a caveat. Throughout the whole series I'll need to stay faithful to that very strategy, and I'm not allowed to diverge from it. This will make more sense as the series progresses. Every episode I'll be allowed a budget of 1500 gems that I'll be able to spend in whatever way I want. Every episode I'll have to participate in at least 10 ranked duels until I reach Master Rank 1. And as an added challenge, I won't be allowed to craft any cards, and of course, won't be able to spend a single dollar on gems. Also, if you end up enjoying the series, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more. Alright, let's do this. So right off the bat, we begin today's episode by creating a brand new Master Duel account. We do this to ensure the whole challenge is done with a clean slate. After answering a few questions, skipping a few tutorials, we're faced with our first decision of the series. What starter deck are we going to begin with? Now, I won't pretend that this decision is going to be series defining. Let's be honest, all 3 starter decks are really underwhelming and are going to lose pretty much all utility after the first episode. However, I still decide to do my due diligence and check them all out. After taking a quick look at all 3 of them, I decide that Synchro of Unity is probably the best choice. This decision is solely made because of the MSTs in it. I figured reliable backward destruction's too good to pass up. With that done, we now begin the grueling process of downloading all the game's data. And after what feels like an eternity of waiting, we're finally able to begin our challenge. Once all the game data is done downloading, I swiftly make my way towards the Master Duel shop. Once there, I'm faced with the biggest and most impactful decision of the entire series. That being, what structure deck am I going to choose? As you can imagine, this decision was not easy to make. Not by a long shot. There were so many fun and interesting strategies to choose from that I wanted to give them all a go. In the end, I ended up settling with Vortex of Magic. However, I did consider choosing the Burning Spirit structure deck, but decided not to since I thought choosing this one would make this challenge too easy. The Salamangreat structure deck is absolutely cracked and gives pretty much everything you need for a viable deck. So instead I opted to choose the Dark Magician strategy since it's, for 1, gonna be a challenge to get it to Master Rank 1, and for 2, I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I mean, how could I pass up this deck? Dark Magician is too iconic. But with that, we've locked in our choice and it's time to build the deck. Because this is the first episode of the series, we were quite limited with our options. I spent roughly an hour or so brainstorming a deck. I tried building one that focused on the Magician Girls, but it felt underwhelming. I then turned my attention towards the Ritual Monsters, but that too felt like it wasn't enough. In the end, I figured that the only real direction I could take was this. This is essentially a Dark Magician Fusion Turbo deck that's gonna try and prioritize making Dark Magician the Dragon Knight as often and as fast as possible. Now then, let's go over the card by card for this deck. Starting off, we're playing 2 copies of Dark Magician, the namesake of the deck. After that, we're gonna be playing 3 copies of Magician Souls. This is gonna be the main way we get access to our Dark Magicians. We're also playing 2 copies of Magic Haribo. He's mostly here just to fill out space and will help us from time to time survive our opponent's onslaughts. 1 copy of Magician's Robe. He's here also for the same reason. 3 copies of Magician's Rod. This is the Stratos of the deck and a card that we're gonna want to see often. Rod reads, when this card is normal summoned, add 1 spell or trap card that specifically lists Dark Magician in its text. And what do you know, that's most of our spell and traps. We're also playing 1 copy of Dark Magician Girl, 1 copy of Magician of Dark Illusion. There's a card that can special summon itself and can treat itself as Dark Magician while on field. 3 copies of Tamiya's the United Dragon. This card's gonna help us with fusion summoning our win condition, often and consistently. Plus he's relatively easy to summon and has a large attack stat. 1 copy of Magician of Chaos alongside 3 copies of Illusion of Chaos. The deck struggles to set up any forms of interruption, so that's why we're playing one copy of Magician of Chaos, while Illusion of Chaos is going to be the main way we're going to be gaining access to cards like Magician's Rod alongside Magician's Souls, two of the best cards in our deck. Now for the spell cards. We're playing one copy of Dark Magic Attack because fuck back row, one Magical Ice Fusion, great for whenever we're in a pinch and need a fusion summon, 3 copies of Magician's Salvation, we're probably playing way too many, but we need to see Eternal Soul consistently in order to make Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight, actually good. 3 copies of Dark Magical Circle, and 3 copies of Soul Servant. Both these cards are here to boost consistency. Dark Magical Circle acts like a pot of duality for Dark Magician cards specifically, while Soul Servant behaves like a bad version of Engage, and in my book, any card that comes near to Engage is pretty good. Since we're trying to fusion summon often, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Secrets of Dark Magic. Also, this card acts as a ritual spell as well, so that's pretty neat. That's all the spell cards. Now for the traps. We're going to be playing 1 copy of Magician's Navigation. I'm honestly regretting playing this card in general. 2 copies of Ballista Squad, 2 Eternal Soul, and finally 1 Magician's Combination. This card is a card that I didn't know existed until today, but it's actually kinda neat, since it's able to set up negates and special summon Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl from our hand and or grave. That concludes the main deck. Now for the extra deck. Of course, we're playing every single fusion monster we have access to, so starting off with, we have Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight, which behaves like a bad version of Dryden, so she's pretty good. 1 copy of Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight, is going to be the boss monster of the deck, and he's kind of an asshole to out. Since he's able to protect our back row, that means he's able to protect Eternal Soul, and Eternal Soul is able to protect him since his name changes to Dark Magician while on the field in the graveyard. Also, if our opponent ever outs him, we're going to be able to revive him with Eternal Soul, so it ends up being an endless cycle and really annoying for our opponents. We're playing the Dark Magicians, which is an awesome card for interacting with their opponent, since it's able to draw us a card whenever they activate a spell or trap card. This card's going to become so much better once we start getting access to hand traps. We're playing Master of Chaos, which is a really cool card for outing opponents' boards, since it's able to banish everything by triggering a light or a dark monster. And finally, Quintet Magician. This card's just an asshole and very annoying to out, since he can't be tributed, can't be used as fusion material, and can't be destroyed by card effects. And finally, he's fucking huge, so our opponent's gonna have a fun time outing this guy. And that's the deck. Now let's get into the duels and see how it performs and how I did for the first episode. My first 2 duels of the series went exactly as I expected. Neither duel made it past turn 3. Duel 1, we began with a pretty stacked hand that consisted of Magician's Robe, Magician's Rod, Tamaya's, Illusion of Chaos, and finally, Secrets of Dark Magic. A pretty good hand if you ask me. I make a few plays and end on a board of Salvation, Secrets of Dark Magic, Eternal Soul, Magician's Rod, and Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. However, my opponent didn't have much planned since all they do for their turn is normal summon Morphtronic Magnet and set a card. It's then my turn again and swiftly take the duel with negligible difficulty. Duel 2 wasn't any better. Our hand consisted of Magician's Souls, Magician of Chaos, Magical Ice Fusion, Secrets of Dark Magic, and finally, Magician's Navigation. With not many plays available, I end on a board of the Dark Magicians and Magician of Chaos and decide to pass. It's then my opponent's turn, and you'd think I was playing a tier 0 deck when compared to what my opponent does. They begin the turn with a normal summon of Chosen by the World Chalice, and calls it a day. Severely underwhelmed, I seek to end the duel as soon as possible. With nothing to impede me, I amass the board that makes quick work of my opponent. Alright, we got another win. We're doing pretty good here. So far, I've been cruising through my duels and haven't struggled one bit. But on my 3rd duel, that all changed. Duel 3 begins with me losing the coin flip, and being forced to go second. Not only that, but my hand is pretty underwhelming. Unfazed by this, I patiently wait for my opponent to start their turn. My opponent begins their turn with the activation of Tearlament Sheeran. The second I saw this, I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. I knew this was the beginning of the end. With no hand traps to interrupt my opponent, I had no choice but to accept whatever happens here. The effect of their tier monster resolves and they end up sending 3 Luna-like monsters to the graveyard and 1 copy of Forbidden Droplets. Seeing this, I knew I was completely screwed, but decided to stick it through. My opponent then combos for a while, and it's finally my turn. They end on a board of Luna-like Collider Chick, Leo Dancer, Panther Dancer. Additionally, they also had a Dugaris and a Tiger King with 2 skills, and a Fire Formation tanking on their field. All things considered, it could have been worse. I draw for turn and get a copy of Magician of Chaos. Looking at my hand, it consisted of Illusion of Chaos, Magician of Chaos, Dark Magic Attack, Magicalized Fusion, Secrets of Dark Magic, and finally, Magician Salvation. I begin the turn by using Salvation to thin out my deck by 1. I then use the effect of Illusion of Chaos, putting back the Dark Magic Attack and fetching a copy of Magician Souls. This would prove to be my first mistake of many for this duel. I then use the effect of Souls to special summon Dark Magician. At this point, here's where I make the biggest mistake of the entire duel. I end up using the Secrets of Dark Magic to ritual summon into Magician of Chaos, which, keep in mind, can't do anything to their Leo Dancer. What I should have done instead here is use the fusion effect of Secrets of Dark Magic to fusion summon into Master of Chaos. Doing this would allow me to then special summon Dark Magician from our graveyard back to the field to then tribute it off and banish all monsters my opponent controlled. Also, I did mention how sending that Dark Magic attack was a costly mistake as well. I say this since if I would have had it in hand, I could have also destroyed all their back row, pretty much clearing the entire field. But oh well, it is what it is. I continue my turn after summoning the Master of Chaos. I then use Magicalized Fusion to trigger its effect to destroy a card on field. With Magician of Chaos, I pop the Cat Dancer. My opponent then chains the effect of Crimson Fox in their grave to banish itself to protect the Dancer. Magicalized Fusion then resolves special summoning the Dark Magician to my field. I then enter battle phase and destroy both their Xyz monsters. It's my opponent's turn again, and they begin their turn by using the effect of Lunalight Tiger to special summon a Lunalight from their grave. Fearing with the potential of my opponent comboing off any further, I go ahead and shotgun the effect of Magician of Chaos, stopping the initial effect of Tiger. But unfortunately, I am a Yu-Gi-Oh player and forgot to read all the effects that Lunalight Tiger had on it. Me popping the Lunalight Tiger enabled it to use its other effect to special summon a Lunalight from their graveyard, essentially causing me to just waste the effect of Magician of Chaos. They go ahead and special summon Yellow Martin off the effect of Tiger. From this point forward, the duel is over. My opponent proceeds to use the Kaleido Chick and the Yellow Martin on their field to Xyz summon into Raider's Knight. The Raider's Knight then uses its effect to detach material and rank up. If I had saved my pop from the Magician of Chaos, there could have been a chance I could have stopped and survived this turn. They rank up into Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon and use its effect to boost itself up to 17,700 attack points. More than enough to end the duel. Damn. I genuinely feel like I could have taken that duel if I had made the optimal choice and fusion summoned into Master of Chaos, and not the Magician of Chaos. But oh well, we still have 7 more duels to go. It's duel 4 and I got to go first. I did end up losing the footage of the first half of my turn, but as you can see I didn't do all that much and ended up with a very lackluster board. As for my opponent, however, they appear to be playing some sort of Sacred Beast deck taking in raw support. We pick up the duel with our opponent activating a copy of the True Sun God. This card allows them to add a copy of Guardian Slime from their deck to their hand. They then proceed to activate their Dark Beckoning Beast on field to special summon a copy of Chaos Summoning Beast from their hand to the field. After this, they end up linking away that Chaos Summoning Beast into a Link Karibo, and activating the effect of Opening of the Spirit Gates to special summon back that Chaos Summoning Beast they linked away. By discarding the Guardian Slime, they added off the True Sun God earlier. With Guardian Slime being discarded, they are then able to add a copy of Ancient Chant from their deck to their hand, which they then use to add a copy of Ra to their hand as well. They proceed to perform a few more plays where they summon IP Masquerena and then after that link it away into a Nightmare Unicorn. They trigger the effect of Unicorn to shuffle back my Eternal Soul into the deck. At this point I figured since they're already going to spin this card back into my deck, I might as well activate it to add a copy of Dark Magic Attack to hand. Our opponent then activates a few cards that eventually leads them to having a copy of the Winged Dragon Ra Immortal Phoenix on their board. They use the effect of Phoenix to pay a total of 2,000 life points to destroy both monsters on my field, and then proceeds to attack me directly for 4k damage. I'm then able to use the effect of Magic Karibo in hand to special summon a copy of Dark Magician from our deck. This then leads to the trigger of Circle, letting us banish the Unicorn on their field. Since we activated the effect of Circle, this allows us to then activate our Magician's Rod in the graveyard to then tribute our Dark Magician on field, letting us add that Rod back to hand. Our opponent proceeds to end their turn, and we draw for ours. We activate the Magician Souls we drew, and send Dark Magician Girl to the graveyard and special summon the souls. I then use the effect of Magician Souls to send the copy of Salvation we have face up on the field to the grave so we can draw one more card. Since we already have a copy of Salvation in hand, we go ahead and activate the second one to then set another Eternal Soul from our deck. After that, we proceed to normal summon our copy of Rod that we added back to hand, and search for a copy of Soul Servant. We activate the Soul Servant to stack a copy of Tamias to the top of our deck. And since we both have Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl in our grave and or field, we're allowed to draw 2 cards by banishing our Soul Servant that we just added. I finally set my whole hand, special summon Tamias, and end my turn since I can't attack Sphere Mode. It's now our opponent's turn and they use the effect of Sphere Mode. At this point, I go ahead and chain both my Eternal Soul and Magician's combination. They special summon the Winged Dragon Ra, and in response we special summon a copy of Dark Magician with the Eternal Soul. This then triggers the effect of Circle, letting us banish that Winged Dragon Ra they just summoned. My opponent proceeds to then activate a copy of Opening of the Spirit Gates, but it doesn't matter, since I go ahead and chain a copy of Secrets of Dark Magic to fusion summon into Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight. They then normal summon a copy of Dark Beckoning Beast and link it away into All Mirage. Noticing that my opponent doesn't have many more plays left, I proceed to activate the effect of Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight to pop that All Mirage on their field. It's my turn again and immediately use the effect of Dark Magic Attack to destroy all my opponent's back row. I proceed to battle, but unfortunately I don't have enough for game. However, things are not looking great for our opponent since they are currently in a top decking situation. They draw and end up drawing a copy of Pot of Prosperity, which is pretty good. But unfortunately for them, it isn't enough to save them since I'm able to negate the activation of that pot with our copy of Magician's combination. And with that, that's a game. Alright, that was a good duel. Let's hope we get some more interesting matchups. It's Duel 5 and I get to go first. Our hand is looking pretty good and I can see a line that leads us to our win condition. I begin with the activation of Salvation, letting us set a copy of Eternal Soul. Right after, I normal summon Rod and add a copy of Circle. With Circle in hand, I activate it to excavate the top 3 of our deck, adding a copy of Soul Servant to our hand. Broken. I now use Tamias in hand, tributing that Rod on field to special summon it, and immediately fusion summon into Dark Magician Dragon Knight. I use the newly excavated Soul Servants to stack a copy of Magician Souls to our deck, and immediately draw into it. I use that copy of Magician Souls to send a copy of Dark Magician Girl to the grave and proceed to end my turn. It's now our opponent's turn and shit. They're playing Eldritch. They begin their turn by using Elixir of the Black Awakening, summoning the Golden Lord to their field. I take the opportunity to chain our copy of Rod in grave to tribute the souls and add it back to hand. I was too impatient and used the effect of Eternal Soul to special summon Dark Magician. This then triggered our Salvation, special summoning Dark Magician Girl to the field as well. I used the effect of Circle, resolving and banishing the Golden Lord. My opponent with 5 cards left in hand then used the effect of Cursed Outland to add a copy of the Golden Lord to their hand. They proceed to activate its effect, pitching itself for the graveyard alongside another spell trap to try and send a card from the field to the grave. They target the Dragon Knight and the effect doesn't resolve. I suppose they just forgot to read Eternal Soul. They then send Cursed Outland to the graveyard to special summon back the Golden Lord. Having that many more moves to do, they proceed to enter battle and run over our Dragon Knight. They proceed to main phase 2 and set 2 more cards and enter their end phase. However, during their end phase, they proceed to activate 2 other trap cards in grave to set 2 more Eldritch spell traps from their deck. It's my turn now and I draw. I draw into Navigation. Shit. This card's horrible. But it's cool. I see a way to win. I opt to summon our Rod to see if we can bait out any negates our opponent might have. And surely enough, the bait worked perfectly. He uses his Judgment to destroy and negate the Rod from searching anything. Not fearing much else, I go ahead and use our Dark Magic Attack in hand to deal with the rest of the back row. At this point, they chain Sanguine to special summon Ash Blossom. With the special summon of Ash Blossom, this told me that they were only ever playing 2 copies of the Golden Lord. With no back row to fear now, I use the effect of Eternal Soul to special summon back our Dragon Knight, banishing the Golden Lord. I then enter the battle phase and attack for game. Good shit. I'm starting to feel real good about this deck. We're now on Duel 6, and again I forgot to start recording from the beginning of the duel. However, as you can see, I didn't do too much on my turn. As for my opponent, however, they appear to be playing some form of Cyber Dark / Cyber Dragon deck. They begin their turn with the activation of Cybernetic Horizon, letting them send 3 cards to the grave, 2 from deck, 1 from the extra deck, those being Cyber Dragon, Cyber Dragon Zwei, and finally Cyberdark Claw. After that, they're allowed to add a copy of Cyberdark Cannon from their deck to their hand. Using their newly added Cyberdark Cannon, they add Cyberdark Horn to their hand. Our opponent then proceeds to normal summon Cyberdragon Core, allowing them to add and then activate Cyberdark Realm. With the newly activated Realm, they then get to add a copy of Cyberdark Edge to their hand. They then proceed to normal summon Cyberdark Horn using the extra normal summon from Cyberdark Realm, and then equip it with Cyberdark Cannon from the graveyard. Presumably our opponent having no more plays left, they enter the battle phase. They go ahead and attack directly with Core for 400. This then allows me to activate Magic Creep in hand to special summon a copy of Dark Magician Girl from my deck. My opponent then tries to attack over the Dark Magician Girl, but I prevent him from doing so by activating my set Secret of Dark Magic to fusion summon into the Dark Magicians. This then forces my opponent to end their battle phase and subsequently their turn. However, on their end phase, I then use my Eternal Soul to add a copy of Dark Magic Attack to hand. It's now my turn and this duel is as good as over. I activate my newly drawn Dark Magical Circle, however my opponent in response chains a copy of Cyberdark Invasion, destroying the Dark Magicians on field. This then triggers the effect of my monster to special summon both Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. Doing this then triggers both the effect of Salvation and Dark Magical Circle, allowing me to special summon a copy of Dark Magician from my graveyard and then banishing a card on field, which I then ended up choosing Cyberdragon Core as my target. I then, before entering battle phase, activate my copy of Dark Magic Attack to try and destroy all my opponent's back row and take this duel. I enter battle and that's GG's from there. Feeling really good about my current win streak, I went into Duel 7 ready to take on the world, but got humbled real quick. Duel 7 was bleak from the very beginning. My opening hand consisted of double Magician Souls, Magician's Robe, Magician of Chaos, and Ballista Squad. So I didn't have many options to begin with. That being said, I activate Magician Souls to special summon a copy of Dark Magician, proceed to set both Ballista Squad and Magician's Robe. Clueless as to what's to come, I pass the turn over to my opponent. My opponent begins their turn with the normal summon of Manadium Reumheart. Oh boy, it's Manadium. This is a deck that I'm not super familiar with, however, I do know that it's supposed to be really good. So when I saw my opponent summon this monster, I knew the match was as good as over. There was zero way that 2 set monsters plus a pop would be enough to slow it down. But let's continue. With their Manadium Reumheart on field, they are then able to special summon Manadium Meek as well. They then activate their field spell to add another Manadium monster to their hand, and then try to activate their field spell to try and destroy Manadium Meek on field. Figuring I should probably do something, I activate Ballista Squad to try and stop it. I should have probably done this earlier, but it's not like it would have made much of a difference. After this point, I've lost all forms of interruption and I'm at the mercy of my opponent. They combo for a little bit, clear my field, and swiftly defeat me. Oof, that was rough. But there's no way I could have beaten this deck, not even with my best possible hand. Well, can't dwell on a loss, let's move on. So for Duel 8, I was so upset and tilted over that loss that I kinda forgot to record the entire duel. However, I did end up winning that duel. Here's the opponent's deck in case you were curious as to what exactly they were playing. As you can see, it was nothing that impressive. They were just running an Egyptian god deck that I was able to defeat pretty easily. Well, whoops, I'll try not to let that happen again. Well, on to the next duel. We're now on Duel 9 and this time around, I do remember to press the record button. This time around, we won the coin toss and we elect to go first, and oh brother, this hand stinks. Fearing another loss, I do my best to salvage the hand I have available to me. I activate our salvation to then quickly thin out the deck by 1. We then proceed to normal summon Rod to search a copy of Circle. I figured that this is the best choice since at least Circle gives us a chance to get something else to make a play with. We excavate the top 3 cards, find Circle, Servant, and another Rod. Shit. No Dark Magician. Oh well. We go ahead and add Servant to hand, activate it, and stack a copy of Magician's Soul so we can make some plays on the next turn. That is, if we survive. Lacking any sense of confidence, I begrudgingly pass it over to my opponent. It's my opponent's turn now and they draw. They begin their turn with the normal summon of Noble Knight's Brothers. Immediately I get a little nervous at what's to come. However, they don't special summon any other Noble Knight monsters with the effect of Noble Knight's Brothers. Instead, they proceed to activate Infernoble Arms. How to clear. And I'll be 100% with y'all. I have zero clue as to what exactly Infernoble combos do, and or how to pronounce any of their equip spells. All I know is that Izode go Burr, and that they have a lot of equip spells in their deck. That's it. However, it's not like I can do anything to impede my opponent's turn. They then activate Ronald from hand to try and equip itself to Noble Knight's Brothers. They proceed to set one more card and enter battle phase. However, they aren't able to attack because of the effect of Brothers, preventing him from attacking if he doesn't control exactly 3 Noble Knight monsters on the field. Relief at the fact that we managed to survive that turn, we draw for turn. We activate a copy of Eternal Souls and search for Dark Magic attack. However, our opponent stops us by activating a copy of Morgan, the Enchantress of Avalon, from hand. Unfazed by this move, we continue our turn and activate a copy of Magician's Souls, letting us special summon Dark Magician to our field. This then activates the effect of Circle, letting us banish their Mystery set card. With Dark Magician on the field, we're then allowed to activate Soul Servant in the grave, allowing us to draw one more card. And oh come on, another copy of Circle. We go ahead and activate it and extract Souls, and Ballista Squad. You're kidding me. I go ahead and stack another copy of Magician's Souls for my next turn, and proceed to enter my battle phase. I clear the field and end my turn. My opponent draws, and they begin their turn with the normal summon of Noble Knight's Custine, and follow it up with the special summon of Infernoble Knight Oliver. With a tuner and a non-tuner monster on field, my opponent proceeds to synchro summon into Captain Oliver. With this synchro summon, he's then able to use the effect of Oliver Engrave to equip itself onto the synchro monster. With nothing else left to do, our opponent proceeds to the battle phase, and declares an attack on Magician's Rod. This then triggers the effect of Captain Oliver to pop a card on our field. They decide to destroy Dark Magician. This decision alone ends up losing them the duel. I chain the effect of Eternal Soul to special summon back our Dark Magician onto the field. This then allows Synchro to banish a card on their field. It's my turn again and I draw. I go ahead and activate the Magician's Souls I just drew to send Dark Magician Girl to the graveyard, and special summon Magician's Souls. I then use the effect of Magician's Souls to send 2 spell trap cards on my field to send them to the graveyard and draw 2 more. I then use my Illusion of Chaos to search for a copy of Timaeus. I then fusion summon into Dark Magician the Dragon Knight, banish Captain Oliver, activate Eternal Soul, and my opponent from here on out sees the writing on the wall and decides to scoop it up. Woo! Let's go, currently 7-2. Let's see if we can end our last duel on a win. We're finally on Duel 10 and we're off at a fantastic start with us losing the coin flip and our opponent needing another win to rank up. So I'm expecting it to be a little rough. My opponent of course opts to go first and I get a bit nervous. My confidence doesn't get any better when I see my hand and my opponent's field. The hand does not look great, offering almost no avenues for a viable play. But worst of all, our opponent has a full decorative field, telling me that they probably spent a good amount of time playing on Master Duel. They begin their turn with the activation of Madolche Salon, and immediately I'm filled with dread. The thought of having to deal with Madolche combos with this crap hand has me thinking this is a wrap. I've lost the final duel. Not only that, but Madolche Queen Tiramisu is an incredibly powerful card that's more than enough to end me. But let's continue. I then see my opponent set a card and normal summon Madolche Mewfile. They then follow that up with the special summon of Madolche Puddingsus, and then proceed to end their turn? Okay. Relieved at the fact that I'm actually gonna get a chance to play the game, I draw for turn, and get a copy of Timaeus. This does a lot to fix our hand. I begin my turn with the normal summon of Magician's Rod, at which our opponent pounces immediately to destroy it with Ring of Destruction. Unbothered and unfazed by this move, I continue and search for a copy of Magician's Circle. I need to find any way possible to get access to Dark Magician. As an idiot, I activate Circle before ever activating Soul Servant, to guarantee that I actually excavate something I can pick up. The cards we end up excavating are the following: Salvation, Eternal Soul and Magic Haribo. We go ahead and add Salvation to hand and activate it to thin out the deck by at least one. Realizing I've punted my entire turn, I try to salvage it by summoning Tamayas, and activating Soul Servant to stack Magician Souls for the next turn. I enter battle and destroy Mew File. Doing this then triggers the Salon, letting our opponent get set a copy of Madolche Ticket to their field. I end my turn and hope for the best. Our opponent then draws for turn, and begins their turn with a activation of Regeki, nuking my entire field. Following that up, they activate Monster Reborn, reviving my Tamayas in my grave to their side of the field. With no cards left in their hand, I realize that I'm actually going to survive the turn, and will get one last chance to try and win. My opponent enters the battle phase and deals a butt ton of damage, and proceeds to end their turn. It's my turn now and I draw into Magician Souls, which I then activate to send Dark Magician to the graveyard and special summon Magician Souls to the field. I then use the effect of Eternal Soul to revive Dark Magician and banish Tamayas with the effect of Circle. Realizing I actually have a window to win, I use the effect of Magician Souls to dig 2 cards deeper into my deck. I draw into another Circle and Soul Servant. I go ahead and activate the effect of Soul Servant to stack a copy of Dark Magician Girl. I use Circle and add a copy of Navigation to my hand. I then activate the effect of Soul Servant Engrave to draw one more card. Trying to get as much damage on board as possible, I fuse into the Dark Magicians using Dark Magician Girl and Magician Souls. I enter battle and attack with Dark Magician into Pudding Cess. The effect of Pudding Cess then activates to pop the Dark Magicians. As the Dark Magician gets destroyed and sent to the graveyard, it activates its effect to special summon a copy of Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl on my field, pretty much giving me all the extra battle damage I need in order to win the duel. This might have been a horrible showing on our part, due to the countless misplays we performed, but hey, at least we managed to pull it through at the end. So there we have it, the conclusion to Master Duel from Scratch Episode 1. In the end, we did end up with a winning record of 8-2, which could have been 9-1 if we had made some better decisions. I had a ton of fun piloting the deck and feel like I learned a lot for future episodes. I personally can't wait till I start opening master packs and start making some huge changes to this deck. And if you want to follow me on this journey and see the evolution of this deck, then make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. But with that, I've been Topsy. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to our next encounter. Bye.